Hey, Roadrunners! Welcome back to the Connected Campus podcast, the show where we dive into the people, places, and services that help Roadrunners make the most of their time at UTSA. I'm your host, Maddie, and today we're talking about something that every student thinks about: where to live. Whether you're a first-year student moving away from home for the first time or an upperclassman looking for more independence, housing plays a huge role in your college journey. Finding the right place to live can completely shape your college experience. From traditional dorms to apartment-style living, UTSA has plenty of options for students at every stage of their journey. In this episode, I'll be sharing my own housing story, from dorm life to off-campus apartments to even moving back home with my parents. In addition, I'll be giving you a rundown of each of the housing options available here at UTSA, including a brand new dorm opening soon. And later, I'll be joined by Jacob Moeller, a senior at UTSA, who has their own story and advice to share about finding the right housing fit. From on-campus options like Chaparral Village, Alvarez Hall, and Laurel Village, to off-campus apartments and everything in between, we'll be covering it on today's episode. Before we dive into the episode, I wanted to share a little bit about my own housing journey at UTSA. I've lived in San Antonio for most of my life. I went to preschool, elementary school, middle school, and even high school here, so UTSA was always kind of like my backyard. Honestly, I wasn't always set on attending UTSA, but I found a lot of comfort in knowing the city, the area, and how to get around. I'm not a huge fan of change, so I decided to stay in my comfort zone, but I'm trying to change that. A big factor for coming to UTSA for me was joining the marching band. I really wanted to join their band because we perform in the Alamo Dome, where it's 73 degrees year-round, and most college bands and Texas bands have to perform outside in an outdoor arena or football stadium, and I just cannot do the Texas heat any longer. So that was one deciding factor that persuaded me to choose UTSA. Even though I lived in San Antonio and go to college in San Antonio, my parents always encouraged me to go and have the college experience, even though I grew up less than 15 minutes away from campus. And to them, the college experience was living on campus and being surrounded by a bunch of other college students and not having to commute back and forth every day. But funny enough, I didn't make the decision to come to UTSA until the very last day of my senior year. I even remember this day. It was May 1st, it's National College Decision Day, and I still hadn't decided where I wanted to go. And I had to decide soon because things like financial aid and housing, classes were even starting to open up. So I wanted to make sure that I had time to do those things, but chose the college that was best for me. On that same day that I decided I was going to go to UTSA, I also added myself to the housing waitlist because I knew I wanted my college experience to be on campus, at least for the first year, so I could really immerse myself in the culture and community that UTSA has to offer. A couple months later, when our housing list came out, I found out I was assigned to Guadalupe Hall, which at the time was the newest dorm. And I'll be honest, I was really nervous. When I came to tour UTSA, I didn't do a housing tour. I didn't check out any of the dorms on campus, so I honestly had no idea what to expect. Come to find out, Guadalupe Hall is a 2-bedroom space with community bathrooms, and I grew up as the only girl with 4 brothers, so 5 of us total, and I have never shared a room before, so the idea of living with a roommate was something that was totally new to me and honestly very frightening. I am a very outgoing person, so I didn't have any issues with meeting new people, just the idea of sharing a space with someone almost 24/7 for the whole entire year. When I got my roommate assignment, her name was Amy, and as any college student would do, I decided to look her up on social media, see what I could find out about her, and even send her a message to try and make a friendship before move-in day. And I had to move in before her because I was in the band, so we got priority move-in, and she moved in about a week after me. So I think that was good because I had already kind of settled into my dorm, and I was able to kind of help her settle in a little bit more. Of course, the first week, first 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, it was pretty awkward because She was a total stranger to me. I was a total stranger to her, but I really wanted this to work because I really wanted to enjoy my living space for my freshman year. So I made every effort to spend time with her. I ate meals together. We talked about our hobbies, and we eventually became best friends. If you didn't know, Guadalupe Hall is also home to many honors college students. And my roommate Amy was already part of the honors college, so she had met a lot of friends through that program. And the spring semester of my freshman year, I was actually invited into the honors program as well. You can get into this program by keeping a good GPA, good grades throughout your classes, and just being a high achieving student. So accepted into this program, I had another thing in common with Amy. So we were able to attend lots of honors college events together and become friends with other people in Guadalupe Hall who were also part of this organization. So that was my freshman year. I lived on the dorms, had that whole experience, and I highly recommend it to anyone thinking about it. My sophomore year, I really wanted to live with Amy again because we just meshed so well, but we both had different plans and decided to move out of our dorm. She moved into her own apartment nearby, and I moved into Hill Country Place, which is one of the top-rated apartments off UTSA Boulevard. I made sure to read my reviews before I moved there because I've heard a lot of college apartment housing horror stories, and I just really did not want my experience to be added onto that list. I chose Hill Country Place because I wanted a safe complex with good management, and overall, I'd say my experience was pretty positive, although I definitely had a couple interesting incidents along the way. For my freshman dorm with Amy, I decided to do a random roommate, and I got really lucky with Amy. I'm going to be so honest. I don't think and everyone's quite this lucky, but I was really lucky. So moving into my apartment at Hill Country Place, I decided to test this luck again and go with random roommates. And it wasn't the worst decision I could have made, but I could have made better decisions. One of my roommates, her name's Abby. Shout out Abby. She was amazing. She made me feel so welcome from the first day, offered to help me move in my stuff. And my other roommate, I'll just leave her anonymous. She was a little bit of a snob, left trash everywhere, liked to host parties, very opposite of my lifestyle, but I did choose a random roommate, so this is kind of what I was stuck with. So I dealt with it for the majority of the time, and it wasn't terrible, but you definitely learn how to live with different people of all kinds of backgrounds and lifestyles. If I could go back, I would 100% live in the dorms again, or even for all 4 years of my college experience. I think nothing can replace what it's like to live in the dorm. You meet so many people. You have such a great time. My favorite part was just being on my own time. I didn't have anyone to report to. I didn't have a curfew. I could walk to the dining hall if I wanted a snack. I could walk to the JPL if I wanted to study late at night and didn't want to be in my room. Whereas at my apartment, I had to drive everywhere. And there's just something that's so nice about the convenience of walking everywhere. My freshman year, I also shared a car, so walking was something I got super used to. It is now my third year in college, and I have moved out of my apartment and moved back home with my parents. While this was not my initial decision, financially, it was the best decision. I am a December graduate, and most apartments in the area only do year-long leases, and I didn't want to commit to something year-long because I do not know what my plans are post-grad. So I moved back home with my parents. Has its pros, has its cons. I won't get into all of that on this episode, but I have lived somewhere different every single year of my college experience, and I don't regret it. I'm just offering my take, my insight, and hopefully you can learn something from today's episode. Now that I've shared a little bit about myself and my stories about UTSA housing, off-campus apartments, and my living situation, I'd like to share a little bit more with you guys about the different housing options available right here on campus at UTSA. Choosing where you live really depends on your lifestyle, your budget, and what kind of experience you want to have. So to start off, we have Guadalupe Hall. This is one of the newer residence halls on campus, and it's a traditional style dorm. You'll share a room with a roommate, and bathrooms are community style. This dorm is popular with first-year students because it's affordable, it forces you to be social, and it gives you a classic dorm experience. If you are a freshman and enrolled in the honors college, you will be stationed at this dorm. I'm not sure if you can get around that, but I wouldn't because it's just such a great first experience. Around Guadalupe Hall, they have little study rooms and even community kitchenettes that you can go. And if you're craving some cookies or something, I know me and my roommate always like to go bake cookies at night just to give ourselves a little sweet treat after we've been studying for a while. Our next dorm is Alvarez Hall. This one's a little bit more private compared to Guadalupe Hall. Alvarez is more of a suite style living where you still have roommates, but you're connected through a Jack and Jill bathroom, and there's a lot less people compared to the community style of Guad. This is a nice middle ground if you want more privacy but still want to stay connected or have a friend that you want to share a bathroom with. It is a little bit more expensive than Guadalupe Hall, but again, that just depends on your finances and living situation. Next, we have Laurel Village and Chaparral Village. These are very similar to each other as they're both apartment style spaces. So you get your own bedroom but share common areas like the kitchen and living room, and even there's 2 shared bathrooms. This is really great for students who want independence but still want to live on campus, or have a group of friends and all want to live together but maybe not off campus quite yet. The perks of living in one of these apartment style places is that you're right next to the Roadrunner Cafe, so you still have meals. You don't necessarily have to cook or go buy groceries, so you're saving money in that area, in my opinion. Next is our oldest dorm hall on campus, Chisholm Hall. This one's also a more traditional residence style hall. You do have shared rooms and suite mates. If you're looking for a classic dorm feel with lots of character and interesting stories, this is the place for you. One thing that Chisholm Hall has that others do not have is at the very bottom is like an activity center. So they have a swimming pool and kind of like a nice hangout area. While the other dorms do have hangout areas, they're not within the building. They're kind of spread out. So I would say that's one of the perks. It is the furthest one from campus, but this is the most affordable option. So if you're looking for that, this would be the dorm for you. Next, we have Blanco Hall. It hasn't opened yet, but it's opening soon. And it's the newest addition to UTSA's housing lineup. It's expected to combine modern amenities and offer a same sense of community similar to Guadalupe Hall. And it's definitely something exciting for future Roadrunners. If I was coming to UTSA, this would be my top pick. It just, even in the works right now, it looks so beautiful and I'm so excited to see what it turns into. There's supposed to be a lot of cute little hangout areas and study spaces for students to get together and really collaborate and enjoy their college experience. Last, we have University Oaks. This one's technically an on-campus apartment, but it's run by outside management. These are full apartment style units with multiple layouts. They have studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, I believe all the way up to 4 bedrooms. This gives you the feel of off-campus living, but you're still right on campus and able to walk to classes or walk to the rec center, so it's super convenient in that aspect. Hi guys, it's Editing Maddie here, and I just wanted to address a few things that I forgot to include in my original podcast recording. I got a little excited and caught up in talking about my own housing experience that I forgot to give you guys a little bit of additional information about UTSA housing. So first of all, our housing contracts and leases are tied to academic semesters rather than the entire calendar year. So if you have a situation like me and you're graduating in December, you can still live on campus and just sign a fall lease, which is super convenient for students who may be transferring after a semester or don't know their college plans, and gives them a little bit more flexibility. In addition, all dorms and on-campus housing do have utilities included. This includes Wi-Fi and internet, and in my experience, the Wi-Fi was really good in my dorm, which may be contrary to some of the buildings on main campus. In addition to this, all of our on-campus dorms have free laundry facilities, so you don't have to worry about collecting your quarters or finding money in your budget to do laundry or driving other places. It's usually either in the building or just a little walk away in like a clubhouse. Lastly, all of your housing fees will be added straight to your tuition, and you'll pay per semester. Lastly, a fun option for students living on campus is that we have themed residential communities. This is where you'd share a residence hall floor with other students who have the same major and interest with you. Of course, this is optional, but it is a great way to foster a sense of community from the start and meet a lot of like-minded people who you could have potential classes with. These will also offer students more academic support and experiences for their academic and personal goals, and I think it's a really great option. Now, I'd like to bring in today's guest. Jacob Moeller, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Jacob, could you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a senior computer science major. I currently live in some off-campus housing, but back in my freshman year, I used to live on campus.
Perfect. Can you tell us a little bit more about where you lived during your time at UTSA and why you chose the options that you chose?
Awesome. Yeah, so my freshman year, I lived at Laurel Village. So that's the on-campus housing. I actually really liked it. I had a great roommate. Uh, we even had like a little kitchenette. The only thing that was kind of unfortunate is we couldn't cook in it. So I felt like it kind of defeated the purpose. But the furniture that came in it was nice. Like I got a big full size bed, which is like pretty unheard of for the dorms. Um, and yeah, like I had good neighbors. It was really close to class. I really didn't have any complaints.
Yeah, that's great. And you said that you're currently living in an off-campus apartment. Can I ask why you chose that option rather than staying in one of the dorms again?
I would say it just came down to cost. Like I said, I wasn't able to cook on my on-campus housing, so I can do it here. Also, my rent is substantially cheaper living here. Uh, and the bus comes here every day, so it's not much of an inconvenience to live off campus at all, I would say.
Oh, okay, that totally makes sense. We just did a episode about 2 episodes ago about the runner and how it's such a great resource for our students. So I'm glad to hear that you're actually using it.
For sure, I use it every day.
Do you have any tips for students who may be listening, deciding between off-campus or on-campus apartments?
I would just say it really depends based off convenience. So, like living on campus, you're likely going to have a dining hall meal plan. You're not going to have to worry about cooking. So if you think you'll have the time to cook, then and take care of some of those extra responsibilities, then I think living off campus is a good cost efficient option. But if you want the overall convenience, I would for sure say you're going to pay a little more, but on campus is the way to go.
I totally agree. For me, it also came down to cost, convenience, independence, all those kinds of things really helped me decide where I wanted to live.
For sure.
One last question. Looking back, would you choose the same housing experience again, or would you opt in to try something different?
That's tough. I think I was fortunate because I lived in the best on campus housing. I think Laurel's definitely probably the nicest one. So I would do it exactly the same as I've done it. I have no regrets about my experience.
That's great. And I told my audience that I also lived at Hill Country. How has your experience been living there?
It's been really good. The maintenance is quick. Uh, all my roommates are pretty chill. I've never had substantial issues. As I've heard about some other complexes, like people have had pretty bad experiences. So I've only had good. I only have good stuff to say. So I'm definitely fortunate for that.
That's great to hear. Well, Jacob, it's been so nice having you here on my podcast. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your experience living on campus and your current experience living off campus at Hill Country. I really hope that we all could take something away from this. What I learned from Jacob is that it's all about convenience for him, and that was choosing between the cost of living and how to get to campus. He uses the runner. And that is a great resource provided by UTSA for those students living off campus. And that just shows how flexible UTSA is willing to be to try and help those off campus students still stay connected and feel a sense of community here at UTSA. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, everyone, that wraps up today's episode of the Connected Campus podcast. Big thank you to my guest, Jacob Moeller, for joining me and sharing their housing experience. I find it really valuable to hear different perspectives, and it's really important to show that there's no one size fits all approach when it comes to your college experience and where you want to live. If you're a new Roadrunner, my advice is to think about what matters most, whether that's community, cost, convenience, or independence. I suggest you use that as your guide when you're picking housing because there's so many options and so many routes you could choose. If you're already living on campus or nearby, maybe this episode inspired you to consider a different option next year. And don't be afraid to ask other students about their experience, because I believe sometimes the best advice comes from your peers. If you haven't already, check out our previous episodes talking about dining, transportation, and campus resources that you might not even know exist. And stay tuned for more episodes in the future. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the Connected Campus podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. I'm your host, Maddie, and until next time, keep building your community and stay connected, Roadrunners.